Some of my favorite Spider-Man villains consist of the Spot, the Chameleon, Scorpion, Dr. Octopus, and the Green Goblin. But a villain that I feel like doesn't get a lot of love and is sorely underutilized is the biggest fishbowl fan ever conceived, named Mysterio. Now, Mysterio is on the spectrum of either being a villain that takes numerous L's, or he's a batshit insane villain who can wipe the floor with any superhero he comes across. And I've always liked this character most of all for his ability to warp the realities of several heroes he's fought against. Sort of akin to the likes of Scarecrow and his mind-altering fear toxin. I just love villains that in a sort can kind of gaslight the hero into thinking he's crazy. Now, you might be thinking, well, what makes Mysterio so special? Isn't he just a guy that makes nothing but illusions and plays mind games? Well, first off, yeah, but if Mysterio were to use these methods of illusions and mind games correctly, he'd be a worthy adversary to anyone who were to oppose him. Take for instance Old Man Logan, which I'll go further in depth later in the video. But just so you keep watching and don't think I'm crazy, in this comic there's an instance where villains are wreaking havoc all over the world, and the X-Mansion doesn't know which threats to stop first until an alarm is sounded. Therefore, villains quickly breach the school grounds, seemingly already killing most of the X-Men, with Wolverine the only hero left. So with Wolverine helping the students evacuate, he kills every supervillain in the mansion, only to be shown the most horrific scene in his life, as Mysterio practically hits an emote over Wolverine and just dips, being completely responsible for the death of the X-Men. Now, if that's not enough to convince you that he's someone that's not to be messed with, I have plenty of more instances. However, before anything, because I spent a ton of money on the reading order for Mysterio, we're going to do a small dive into Mysterio's origin and Mysterio's most significant moments of just all around being a messed up human being. With up first being his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man number 13. Coming off of Spider-Man stopping Doc Ock, everyone in New York mostly has grown quite fond of Spider-Man. Until Spider-Man all of a sudden starts robbing banks, taking a full 180, even running away from the scene of the crime, webbing up some police officers. With these new acts of crime supposedly committed by Spider-Man, everyone in New York thinks of Spider-Man as a chump who's finally decided fighting crime doesn't pay off as much as committing it. Cut to Peter with Aunt May laying all of her problems on Peter, giving him endless anxiety, saying things like,
"Oh, I know our money is dwindling, Peter, and we can't afford anything anymore, and the house will be taken from us very soon, and it's likely we'll be out on the street in no time, but I hope everything is okay, dear Peter."
Toppled with Peter hearing from the news that Spider-Man has been seen robbing banks left and right. Peter hearing this, he starts to have a nervous breakdown, thinking that maybe he's developed split personality, getting gaslighted by Mysterio so much that Peter stays up night after night trying everything he can not to fall asleep so that the evil Spider-Man doesn't take over. With Peter even going so far as reaching out to his shrink under the guise of Spider-Man to see if he's really going crazy. Meanwhile, the Daily Bugle, a huge cloud of mist appears with Mysterio announcing himself, telling JJ that he has abilities that can match those of Spider-Man and he can surely defeat him so long as JJ leaves Spider-Man a note within the paper to meet Mysterio on the Brooklyn Bridge. Peter eventually sees the note for Spider-Man in the paper and meets Mysterio atop of the bridge, with Mysterio essentially saying to Spider-Man that he will destroy him as Mysterio dodges and leaps over each of Spidey's attacks, at one point even vaporizing Spidey's web fluid with the wave of his hand, telling Spidey that he doesn't even stand a chance. As Mysterio summons a shroud of smoke over Spidey, proceeding to pummel him due to Spidey's spider sense somehow being doled out, with Mysterio walloping Spider-Man so much that it would cause Spider-Man to run away. And on top of this, JJ holds a small press conference at the Daily Bugle for Mysterio where Peter would meet Mysterio face to face, along with planting a small tracking device on his cape so he can wallop him later. But Mysterio manages to get the better of Spider-Man despite Spider-Man's capabilities, to which Spider-Man says that he knows that Mysterio posed as Spider-Man to rob those banks to turn New York against him so that Mysterio could have all the fame and riches, essentially becoming the hero of New York. To which Mysterio basically says, yeah, that pretty much sums it up, adding that he studied Spider-Man's movements for weeks and as a stunt performer gave him the edge he needed to reenact his movements, while also developing gadgets such as a nylon web shooter, a mist gauntlet that could vaporize web fluid, and special springs and magnets that could let him stick to walls, along with a helmet developed with tech that could jam his spider sense. After explaining everything, Spidey just says, "Alright, dummy, I got that all on recording. You're busted." So Mysterio's like, "Oh shit, no, get back here with that tape recorder or I'll fucking kill you," as a fight ensues through several movie sets. However, because Spider-Man was told by Mysterio how all of his tech worked, Spider-Man gets the upper hand and defeats Mysterio, turning him into the police and all the evidence, thus clearing Spidey's name. Now, Mysterio could have won in this instance if he just kept his mouth shut, but his ego got the better of him. 3 issues later, Mysterio would become a founding member of the Sinister Six, following the leadership of Doc Ock, who had assembled each of Spider-Man's deadliest foes to take them on as a well-coordinated team of villains. Only Ironically enough, they wouldn't fight together, but separately, enacting an Easter egg hunt of notes they'd each carry to where Spider-Man's loved ones would be held. Now, through Doc Ock's help, Mysterio would create life model decoys of the X-Men to give Spider-Man quite the trouble, until Spider-Man would end up sensing Mysterio on the other side of a metal wall, knocking him out with one clean punch. And I gotta say, Mysterio using the X-Men as robots to kill Spider-Man is pretty funny, considering what he ends up doing in the future. And Mysterio sort of became a jobber of the week, repeatedly getting defeated by Spider-Man because of his inflated ego and his inability to grasp the concept of change. Until his nemesis Spider-Man that he had fought for years, all of a sudden up and vanished, replaced by the Ben Reilly Spider-Man. Upon this realization that he was no longer facing the same Spider-Man, he set out to find a new adversary. And during the search, he would not only settle on Daredevil because he was second best and could sort of relate to that, but would also find out that he had cancer. So Mysterio would create a plan that would not just destroy Daredevil and his reputation, but also make Daredevil the hero to kill him so the cancer wouldn't get to him first. Essentially, what Mysterio would do was he'd pay Kingpin $1 million to learn everything he could about Daredevil. Therefore, after learning Daredevil's secret identity, he would manipulate his loved ones in some sick and twisted plot to ruin each of their own lives alongside Daredevil's, thus using an airborne drug to hypnotize Daredevil into thinking a baby was the reincarnation of the Antichrist. I feel like this all could have been solved if Mysterio just got a hug and was told, like, yeah, you're good at special effects, man, be in a movie. But coupled with the world of Marvel alongside Daredevil's religious beliefs, he bought the whole thing Mysterio had made up, thus causing Daredevil to become suicidal and throw the baby off the building. The baby ended up getting saved, don't worry, he didn't actually kill the baby. And upon the reveal that Mysterio was the one behind everything, it didn't take long for Daredevil to find Mysterio, where Mysterio would explain to Daredevil all the steps it took to break Daredevil and everyone he cared for, until Mysterio would grab a hold of Daredevil, begging him to kill him and be the hero after everything Mysterio did, hoping everything would go according to plan. But Daredevil wouldn't give Mysterio the satisfaction of killing him, so Mysterio would steal a trick from Kraven and kill himself instead. After this story, this was when I myself started to realize just how potent Mysterio's villainy truly was, and how dangerous he actually could be if he faced heroes other than Spider-Man and Daredevil. Like, Mysterio, with all of his intellect, illusions, and mastery of manipulation, could honestly bring the downfall to any hero, and it almost got the better of Daredevil, if not for him snapping out of it at the last second. But after Mysterio's death, he wouldn't appear in comics for another long time. That is, until Mysterio would eventually come back from the dead. Get it? Because his name's Quentin Beck? And he'd mess with the Intergang in New York for a little bit. But not soon after Mysterio's return, he'd end up breaking new grounds technologically speaking, becoming the main reason Peter Parker and Miles Morales ever met in the first place, as he would himself develop an interdimensional gateway to the ultimate universe. And that sounds crazy, I know, given that like 4 minutes ago we were just talking about how this guy made simple gadgets to project illusions. But through Mysterio's great effort, he would strand Spider-Man in the ultimate universe, leaving him there so he could try to kill him in a robot body instead, as to not feel any harm, alongside using chemical agents to make Spidey think he was fighting his villains and even the Hulk at one point, until he'd just have enough of Spider-Man and shut off the portal back to his world completely. However, days later, Mysterio would grow kind of bored and kind of get curious as to what happened to Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe. So Mysterio would turn the portal back on and head on through with his robot out of curiosity, only to be webbed through the other side after the Avengers and Spider-Man tracked down where Mysterio had hid his portal in the Ultimate Universe, with Mysterio afterwards being defeated himself after not only finding out Spider-Man's secret identity, but also enacting a few desperate attempts to escape, like drugging the heroes into seeing their worst nightmares. But at the end, Nick Fury would ask if, since Mysterio knows Spidey's identity, wouldn't it be best if he stayed in their world? To which Spidey would say, yeah, that works for me, and just leave Mysterio stranded in the Ultimate Universe. Now again, it seems like every time Mysterio seems to almost get the upper hand and win, he just goes and lets his ego get the best of him. Now I'm assuming that after Secret Wars, Mysterio ended up coming back. Mysterio returned to the main continuity, where Mysterio would make his grand reintroduction in Amazing Spider-Man #1 by Nick Spencer, starting the story with the Avengers, the X-Men, the Defenders, and even the Guardians of the Galaxy taking on an alien invasion, with aliens encompassing pretty much every superhero until Spider-Man would arrive, fighting alongside the Human Torch until aliens would get a hold of him as well, as portals of mass groups of aliens pile and pile all over New York, until Spider-Man, entrenched by the alien hordes, looks up at the sky and notices that the the alien portals are all following a distinguishable pattern. So with Spidey's realization and every hero out of commission, Spidey makes the leap that it surely means saving New York, believing without a doubt that this is the end of his story as he leaps into the light. Only to hit a dome of glass like a bug on a windshield as Mysterio on the other side celebrates his victory over Earth's mightiest heroes. Until Mysterio gets walloped by Spider-Man. Yeah, I brought walloped back. As Spider-Man saves the day. With Mysterio later hanging off the side of a building, saying to Spider-Man that he's been in a rut lately and felt like just trying something new to be taken seriously. So instead of trying to kill Spidey over and over and over again, he instead went ahead and tried to kill everyone. But just to reaffirm everything that I've been saying about how Mysterio is dangerous and underutilized, the dude literally created a fake space army that was so convincing and capable that Mysterio almost single-handedly killed every significant hero in the Marvel Universe. Thus bringing us to my final reason as to why Mysterio is one of the most dangerous villains in the Marvel Universe, and it goes to a story that I mentioned all the way back in the beginning. Old Man Logan. Now, me myself, I believe that Old Man Logan is kind of partly canon due to the fact that Old Man Logan was a part of the 616 continuity for a while, and for the fact that at a later story, Old Man Logan tries to kill Mysterio because he deems Mysterio too much of a threat to be left alive. But anyways, onto the story. Wolverine is telling Hawkeye about the night every villain in the world banded together to kill every hero, with the X-Mansion getting distress signals from Wakanda, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and S.H.I.E.L.D., with Jubilee asking Wolverine what should they do, until they both get hit by an explosion. Moments then pass as Wolverine gets out of the rubble to find Jubilee dead, along with a multitude of villains starting to seep into the X-Mansion. Now immediately, Wolverine leaps at the large group of 30 to 50 villains, but gets quickly overpowered as more villains breach the school, nearly killing the kids if not for Wolverine killing each of the villains brutally, as Wolverine calls out to each of his friends for help, while the kids all make a break for the school's emergency exit, while Wolverine screams for the kids to never look back no matter what, killing more and more villains by either stabbing, pouncing, or gashing, until it had finally come down to just Wolverine and Bullseye, with Bullseye giving Wolverine the most trouble. But it was only until Wolverine finally stabbed Bullseye that Bullseye would utter the words, "Logan, stop, please. Why are you doing this? You're supposed to be our friend," with the illusion dissipating, revealing that Bullseye was really Jubilee the entire time, with Logan looking around to find that the mountain of bodies that were villains killed by Wolverine were the people who called him friend and comrade. As Mysterio makes his entrance by mocking Wolverine on the fact that he thought he could kill all of those villains the way he did. But his friends, people who would hesitate, that's a different matter entirely. Bowing to Wolverine and telling him,
"My name is Mysterio, the Master of Illusions. My thanks on behalf of the criminal community."
Old Man Logan would go on to say that there was no way he could have known it was the X-Men because Mysterio had made it so convincing by changing their appearance, their smell, and the way they all felt to Logan. In addition to Mysterio's brutality, it led Logan to become so devastated with shock and grief that he'd find himself at a railway and let the train roll over his head. Now, if that does not prove my point that Mysterio is an extremely dangerous and otherwise underutilized villain, I do not know what else will. But with that, I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Now, I gotta go play Resident Evil 4.